Hi folks, welcome back and thanks for the many messages and comments that we've received every day. So in today's video, we'll continue our journey in exploring and discussing more secrets about Ndrangheta. So let's have a bit of fun. As we all know, and as we've seen in previous videos, the Ndrangheta is one of the most well-known and powerful mafia organisations in Italy. With influences in many Italian regions in the south, in the north, and even internationally, and of course on most continents of the world, it can be said that it is now nigh on impossible to stop it. But the situation of this group was very different a few decades ago. Specifically, after World War II, the Ndrangheta was still a very small organisation, which didn't have significant economic power to allow for quick and easy expansion. But in this circumstance, the procurement sector became an opportunity for the mafia gangs, an opportunity that was served to them on a silver platter. Now, among the most famous cases of major Italian works that have seen heavy mafia involvement is that of the Salerno-Reggio Calabria highway. Now, over the years, this stretch, built to connect Calabria to the rest of the country, has become infamous for the continuous work in progress, for the deaths on the job, and for the great struggle of almost every motorist to get to the south of the country in a short time. But how did the Ndrangheta manage to insert itself into such a large and important civil construction project? Well, the 1950s and 1960s were opportunities for the organisation to expand and become more powerful. The authorities just didn't seem too interested in aggressively opposing the actions of the various cosche, and so the Ndrangheta managed to initiate relationships and silently insert itself into civil society. Now, the economic growth of the group becomes one of the key issues to be resolved, and the management of contracts and subcontracts is presented as a solution not to be missed. So right in the middle of the 1960s, the completion of the Autostrada del Sole was planned, and this was the largest and most important link that allowed Italians to travel by car from one part of the country to another. Calabria, however, was left out, and to solve this isolation, Italy had decided to start a series of works to extend that very highway. And it was the big northern companies that won the contract. After all, it was a project of a huge scale that required sufficient capabilities and adequate personnel to deliver it. Companies from Calabria and even small businesses linked to the Ndrangheta had absolutely no chance of winning. Yet, something happened that changed the game. The great entrepreneurs in the northern part of Italy decided to make the work easier and safer by relying on the protection of the Calabrian gangs. They entered into negotiations with the bosses and secured their construction sites. Not only that, they also agreed on the supply of concrete and the hiring of workers. Now, these giants of northern entrepreneurship just didn't need to negotiate with the Ndrangheta. These industrial giants were powerful enough, and they had important relationships already. The mafia group, still too small, had no way of threatening their work. Yet they did. They still decided to tie themselves to the Ndrangheta, and this marked the key moment in the rise of the organisation. In fact, and of course, the protection of the mafia came with a cost, and this led to an increase of about 15% to the overall project value. And that's a staggering number that allowed the cosche to fill their coffers and use their new independence and economic influence to gain power. So, why did the entrepreneurs rely on the Ndrangheta? Well, the answer's simple: because they too had their own fingers in the pie. Specifically, they had the opportunity to defraud ANAS, that's the government-owned company responsible for roads infrastructure, and provide the mafia groups with a part of that revenue. Now, the sociologist Vittorio Mette has dwelt at length on this situation, and through an in-depth analysis has managed to define the relationships between the two parties involved in the construction of the highway. And based on the judicial papers, Mette admitted, in this work, the Ndrangheta did not present itself as an extortionist, but as a service agency. The mafiosi have favoured expropriations on the layout of variants, union tranquility, the circumvention of controls on the quality of supplies. The Salerno-Reggio Calabria freeway was completed on the 13th of June 1974. The Ndrangheta had found its golden goose. But the exploitation of this contract just didn't end there. The Salerno-Reggio Calabria, now known as the A2, was again subject to modernisation works in 1997, and naturally the Ndrangheta didn't miss this opportunity and began to silently infiltrate the works once again. Following investigations in 2002, it was discovered that there were 12 gangs that had successfully entered the project. They imposed a 3% commission on the companies involved in the works, as it was discovered in 2007. And this time, the authorities were committed to fighting this heavy mafia penetration in a major civil contract in progress on Italian territory. The first important operation was called Tamburo and the second Arca. And thanks to the commitment of the police forces, 40 precautionary custody orders were executed, involving mafiosi, entrepreneurs, and also workers of ANAS itself. After decades of ongoing work investigations, the stretch of the Salerno-Reggio Calabria highway was only officially completed in 2016. Unfortunately, this great work was only one of the first examples of the early infiltration of the Ndrangheta in major Italian works. For the criminal organisation, contracts like these became an inexhaustible source of profit, and the only commitment of the authorities in recent years has managed to counter, with some severity, the involvement of the cosche in important projects for the social and economic development of Italy. So, as we peel back the layers once again, we find this dirty, dark, huge hoard of secrets of corruption these organisations have managed to infect throughout Italian civic society, and none more so than, of course, the Ndrangheta. So there you have it. We've several more videos coming up looking at the organisation from various angles, so do keep an eye out for them as we release them. So until next time, ciao.